Everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to be here physically and for those who are attending online. So continuing with our cancer awareness talk, whose theme is answering the call by translating cancer awareness into actionable change. So today we will be looking at what are the risk factors for cancer. And before we do that, we can just say a short prayer. Mighty Father, as we gather before you this afternoon to worship and pray and learn We ask you for guidance and wisdom, that the information that will be shared here may empower those who are listening, to enable us to make informed, wise decisions about our personal health, and to shine a light on what factors may be contributing to the development of a cancer diagnosis. And as we work towards early detection and prevention, Lord, I ask you to bless those who are gathering here today, those who are online, with clarity of thought and open hearts, as we strive to educate and raise awareness on the importance of healthy living and cancer prevention. I offer my gratitude for this opportunity to be able to share. And as we support each other through this journey of wellness and betterness of health, I pray all this through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. So yesterday we did a short introduction about what is cancer, what is early detection, and what is cancer prevention. So today we'll be going through what are the risk factors for cancer. And we will be looking at the factors under two titles, modified factors and factors that we cannot modify. Those we can do something about and those we cannot do anything about. So at the end of the 20th century, the focus of cancer control shifted from cure to a preventive approach. Because it was recognized that in the late 19th century, that some of the changes that were made in people's lifestyles contributed towards a decrease in the death rates from cancer. So there was hope that if we target prevention, we could reduce the incidence and the mortality rates for cancer. So specific therapies for cancer control were seen as relatively limited in their effectiveness as compared to preventive strategies. You remember yesterday we looked at how much does it cost to treat cancer versus how much does it cost to prevent, and the difference was quite significant. So yesterday we talked about that cancer does not develop in one day, that someone moves from having one cancer cell to stage 4 doesn't happen overnight. It is a process that takes a lag of sometimes even more than 20 years from when someone is exposed to cancer carcinogens, which are things that make changes inside the cell, to when the person is found to have stage 4 incurable disease. So as we look at the natural history of disease, when we are talking about cancer prevention, we are targeting to get the cancer early when we have preclinical stage. And when we are talking of primary prevention, we are targeting to prevent ourselves from being exposed to those things that have the ability to make changes in our DNA to cause what we call mutations, which end up leading to cancer. So as we said, primary prevention, the person does not have disease. So we are looking into avoiding exposure to any of the risk factors. We are looking into increasing an individual's resistance to these factors. It could be smoking, it could be alcohol, it could be physical inactivity, it could be chemicals. When we are looking at secondary, we are talking about the disease is there, yes, but it's still quite small or precancerous. So we are looking into detecting it when it is still very early, when as medics we have a higher chance of curing the patient. And when we talked about tertiary, we said this person already has cancer, but we still need to do prevention to prevent this person from having a recurrent disease, that you treated the person and the disease is back, or you're looking into reducing the risk of this particular disease, moving from where it started initially to a more distant site. We say that a half to a third of most cancers are preventable if you eat well move more, and stay lean. So now we look at the risk factors, which I've divided into non-modifiable and modifiable. So we start with the risk factors that are non-modifiable, which is age, genetics, gender, and we have some cancers that are hormone-driven. So certain genes, genes are basically small units with instructions within the DNA. So certain genes that we inherit from our parents and from our ancestry have an increased likelihood of people developing cancer. So these genes may get mutated, meaning that they may cause a mistake or an error in our DNA, making the cell very prone to cancerous change. Having a family history, like when you look at your family history, you find that there are a number of people very close to your family that were found to have cancer. For example, you can find an aunt who had breast cancer, an uncle who had prostate cancer, another aunt who had colorectal cancer, and the mom who has breast cancer. So you have a family that seems like cancer is very, very prone, very, very common. But even families that have these mutations, it is not each and everybody who develops this cancer, because cancer is not caused by just one thing. It is not just smoking alone, or it's not just alcohol alone. It is usually caused by multiple factors that come and work together to give you that particular outcome. And yes, you will tell me, I have an uncle who smoked for 40 years and he did not die of lung cancer. Yes, because it is not just one factor. There are other things that play into that for this person to actually get that. So I think we all know Angelina Jolie. There is this article in Times about the Angelina Jolie effect. So Angelina's mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. And as a result of this, she underwent what we call genetic testing to see if there are any errors in her genetics. So she was found to have something we call BRCA1, which is breast cancer gene. So there is 1 and 2. And this breast cancer gene has high chances of someone who has it getting cancer. For example, when we look at breast cancer in women, if somebody has the breast cancer gene 1, there is a 50 to 65% chance of this person developing cancer. And if somebody has breast cancer 2, there is a 40 to 55% chance of this person, if it's a female, developing cancer. And normally, the percentage of men who get breast cancer is less than 1%. But if this man has BRCA1 gene positive, then there is a 1.2% chance of getting breast cancer. And if they have the breast cancer gene 2, then there is a 9% chance of getting breast cancer. The same gene is not only responsible for breasts, it's also responsible for pancreatic cancer, ovarian cancer, and prostate cancer. So when you look at ovarian cancer, the chance of a woman getting ovarian cancer with BRCA1 is 40 to 65%, while if they have BRCA2, it's 15 to 25%. So those two reasons are what led Angelina Jolie into what she did to prevent herself from getting cancer of the breast and cancer of the ovary. So she took out the organs. She had removal of both breasts and removal of both ovaries. So now her risk for those two particular diseases came down. So this Angelina Jolie phenomenon, it was an eye-opener for us medics in the importance of genetic medicine, that it is now in some of the recommendations that if somebody is found to have these genetic abnormalities, you can be offered the surgical option so that you do not have that risk anymore. I'm sorry to say that we are not there yet, but I hope we'll be getting there soon. We are not able to check for genetic abnormalities. I think we do send them out of the country, and they are quite expensive that most people are not able to afford it. So we look at the next non-modifiable factor, which is age. When the older you become, when your cells keep on dividing and dividing and dividing, the more they divide, the more the likelihood of there being errors in cell division. So age increases the likelihood of somebody having errors in the genetic mutations or errors in the DNA. When you've lived longer, you've been exposed more to carcinogens like maybe bad chemicals, maybe tobacco smoking, maybe ultraviolet radiation. So there is a higher chance of an older person getting cancer as opposed to a younger person. Older people have a weaker immune system, and the immune system is very key right now in cancer because some of the therapies that are coming up now, they're actually targeting to boost the immune system as a treatment for cancer, and the outcomes are really remarkable. So older people have a weaker immune system, so this can make them more likely to develop a cancer. And then we also have, as you age, the level of hormones does keep on changing. When we look at breast cancer, the hormone influence of breast cancer, women who are in Western countries tend to have a higher breast cancer risk because they take high calorie dense foods, low levels of physical activity, and high obesity rates, and have a higher alcohol intake. So basically, breast is a hormonal driven kind of a cancer. The longer you're exposed to estrogen, the higher your chances of getting breast cancer. For example, if you have your first menstrual cycle 11 to 12 years, and if you have your menopause more than 55 years, you're exposed to estrogen for long, and your chances of getting breast cancer are higher. If you have delayed first childbirth, if you do not breastfeed the children, if you've never had given birth to a child, when menopause comes with a lot of symptoms, and sometimes as doctors we prescribe what we call hormone replacement therapy, which are estrogen therapies. So these ones can also lead to increased risk of breast cancer. Uterine cancer is also a hormonal-driven cancer. Also more or less the same risk factors like breast cancer, with addition of what we call polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is usually affect girls in the reproductive age. They have more or less irregular menses, difficulty getting children. When we do a scan, we see their ovaries have multiple cysts. Cysts are like cavities that are filled with fluids. So this particular group of people also have a higher risk of developing uterine cancer. When we come to men, we look at prostate cancer. The prostate is a gland that is found in men. Prostate cancer is also hormonally driven. Even our treatment basically targets reduction of testosterone, which is the hormone that drives prostate cancer. So testosterone has a lot of functions in the body, and one of the functions is the growth and the maintenance of the prostate. So basically, as long as you're a man and you're growing older, the prostate, as you grow older, the prostate starts growing. So not everybody with a big prostate has prostate cancer. We have to confirm it by doing a biopsy. But this testosterone is what prostate cancer feeds on. So it's one of the hormone-driven cancers. Now we look at the modifiable factors. These are what we can do something about. What I've talked about, we can't do anything. You cannot change being a man, or you cannot change being a woman, or you cannot change your genes. But now what I want to talk about are things that we can do something about. So when we look at modifiable, we look at tobacco use, alcohol use, living a sedentary life, obesity, and unhealthy diet. And we also look at exposure to ultraviolet radiation, infections, environmental factors, chronic inflammation, and a weak immune system. So tobacco. The link between tobacco and cancer was established 60 years ago. It kills nearly 4 million people annually. it doesn't only affect cancer, but other non-communicable diseases like what we talked about yesterday, cardiovascular, diabetes, respiratory diseases. Smoking accounts for at least 30% of all cancer deaths. And the epidemic is now shifting from the developed countries to the developing countries. So the reason for this is, one, the developing countries have very strict measures on tobacco use, but our countries are very porous. People are able to manipulate our systems. Another thing is smoking looks cool, looks chic. So some people want to smoke just so that they can look like they are cool people. Tobacco use is one of the most preventable causes of cancer death in the world. And the smoke has approximately 4,000 specific chemicals. 3,000 the particulate matter, which is called tar, is made up of 3,500 compounds. The most abundant of this is nicotine. Other compounds are like benzene, heavy metal, and aromatic amines. All these have been proven in scientific studies that they have a direct link to cancer. And it's not just lung cancer, to also other types of cancer. So when we look at lung cancer, smokers have a 15 to 30% chance of getting lung cancer, 2 to 4 times more likely to get bladder cancer, 2 to 4 times more likely to get esophageal cancer, 1.5 to 2 times more likely to get cervical cancer, 1.5 to 2 times more likely to get stomach cancer, and 2 to 3 times more likely to get pancreatic cancer as opposed to somebody who does not smoke. And another thing about smoking, it's not just about the person smoking, but also the person who is near the person smoking. Because all those chemicals we've talked about, when they are exhaled into the air, you who is near inhales all of them. So you should also not be a passive smoker. You should not be around where people are smoking. We can now look at alcohol. Alcohol has been linked with a number of cancers, including the highest link is esophageal cancer, followed by the colon and rectum, followed by liver, breast, oral cavity, among others, among other cancers. So what happens when alcohol is consumed? It is metabolized into something called actaldehyde, which now goes to cause damage in the DNA, which is that causes the mutation. And this interferes with the body's ability to repair, because we said yesterday that when it's functioning normally, the body is able to identify these mutations and destroy them. But now with alcohol, the body is not able to identify this, so it's not able to cause the repairs. So this also can lead to increased level of some hormones, which may promote growth of some hormone-sensitive tumors. So if we look at, there's a graph there showing alcohol intake in different countries. So we can see the highest intake comes from Mongolia at 9.8%. Another high country is Russia. Kenya, our attributed fraction is 2.8%. Not too high, but can still go lower. So we look at obesity. Unhealthy diet leads to obesity. So with this, we look at obesity and diet just in the same sitting. So we have 2 studies from Europe that were looking at nutrition and cancer. It's called the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition Studies. They were done in the early 90s. This one is still ongoing. Every time they give us an update for the people they are following. So they are following about 500,000 people. They noticed that people who eat diets rich in fruits and vegetables and whole grains had lower risks of cancer, while people who had diets high in processed foods, high dairy fat, were linked to higher risk of certain cancers like esophageal, pancreatic, and stomach cancers. Another UK study called EPIC Oxford 93 focused on health of vegetarians and vegans in the UK. It brought insights into the potential benefits of plant-based diets in reducing the risk of colorectal and breast cancers, diets high in fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins like poultry, fish, and legumes, tofu, were associated with a lower risk. Diets high in processed foods, red meats, sugary drinks, high-fat dairy, high-fat dairy products like whole milk, full-fat cheese, and cream were linked to an increase in cancer, but the evidence was not so conclusive, so there are still other studies that are ongoing to confirm that study. So if we look at cancer and obesity, we can see that it has a high link with breast and uterine cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, lower association with other cancers like gallbladder, pancreatic, rectum, and ovary. A normal BMI is between 18.5 and 24.9. So gain in BMI has been estimated to increase the risk of postmenopausal breast cancer by 3%. For every 5 kilogram increase in weight, it increases the relative risk of developing breast cancer in women who have finished menopause by 1.08%. In US, obesity accounts for the development of 20% of all postmenopausal breast cancers and 50% of postmenopausal breast cancer deaths. It also has a role in uterine cancer, where there's a study that looked at 100,000 women who were followed for 4.6 years. They were recruited from the age of 18 years up to, they checked the weight from the age of 18 years up to when the study began. And they found that there was a strong association between weight gain and increased risk of endometrial cancer, especially in women who had never used hormone replacement therapy. Remember, we said that replacing hormones after menopause has a risk of certain cancers. Other cancers that are associated with obesity, we have colorectal cancers, we have renal kidney tumors, and obesity indirectly heightens the risk of esophageal cancers, a type of esophageal cancer called adenocarcinoma, because it increases the risk of gastroesophageal reflux disease, which is like acid is coming back towards the stomach. And this changes the structure of the esophagus, making a precancerous lesion. Obesity doubles the risk of pancreatic cancer, and the association between obesity and liver cancer incidence exists, but the precise extent of this risk is uncertain. So when somebody has gastroesophageal reflux disease, where the stomach acid flows upwards towards the esophagus, causing irritation, discomfort, heartburn, chest pain, and sometimes a feeling of something sour in the mouth, this can lead to changes that can lead to precancerous lesions and then to an adenocarcinoma of either the esophagus or the stomach. When we look at infections that can cause cancer, we have H. pylori bacteria, HPV, hepatitis B and C. And in East Africa, the graph changes a little bit, where HPV becomes the highest, followed by Helicobacter, and then the hepatitis viruses. So for liver cancer, called hepatocellular carcinoma, hepatitis B is a common risk factor. In people who are asymptomatic, the incidence is 0.1%, but it increases in patients who have chronic hepatitis B to 1%. Hepatitis C, unfortunately, we don't have anything we can do. We don't have any vaccines for it yet. So there's a chart there showing we have a very high mortality rate from liver cancer. So for HPV, which is primary cause not only for cervical but many other cancers, but for cervical cancer, the risk is 99.7%. What is important to note is it is common from onset of sexual activity. So if the immune system is good, it can clear it without any treatment. But there are other factors that play a role to develop this, from a HPV infection to precancerous lesions and to cancer, which have not been well studied. And it's multifactorial also. Other things also play a role, like smoking, contraceptives, infections with STDs, low immunity, including having HIV infection. And it can take 20 to 30 years from the infection to the actual disease. H. pylori is a significant risk for stomach cancer. It affects the stomach lining, and the infection can lead to chronic inflammation, and this can cause changes that can increase the risk for somebody who has H. pylori bacteria. Risk of cancer would be 2 to 6 times higher than a normal person, which would be 1 to 2. There is also what we call the blood fluke, or schistosoma hematobium, which is a parasite found in water bodies, even in Kenya, around the lakes, Lake Victoria, the coast. There is a snail that is an intermediate host that carries this fluke, and it gets into the body through the skin. This has a 2 to 6% time higher risk for bladder cancer, and it can also increase the risk for other tumors of the urinary tract system. Ultraviolet radiation causes sunburn, eye damage, cataracts. It can cause a type of eye tumor called ocular melanoma, skin cancer. So the issue with ultraviolet radiation is that the damage to the skin cannot be reversed. So it is one of the things that we need to take care of, that we need to protect ourselves from ultraviolet radiation. Environmental risk, secondhand smoke increases the risk of lung cancer by 10 to 20%. Using solid fuels, kama kuni, the risk for lung cancer is 24%. Living in a house with asbestos, the risk for cancer of the pleura called mesothelioma is 8.1%, and for lung is 1.1 times higher. Some of the pesticides we use contain something called arsenic, which is a carcinogen. We have weed killers, which have been connected to prostate cancer and blood and lymphatic system cancers. The WHO recommends a maximum of 10 micrograms per liter of arsenic in water. And I don't even think I know how much arsenic is in the water I drink. So the immune system plays a very important role in cancer. The immune system is able to survey the body and identify and destroy any cells that are abnormal. Though cancer cells are also quite crafty, they are able to maneuver around this. So the things that weaken our immune system are unhealthy weight, unhealthy diet, excessive alcohol and smoking. We've talked about that. Inadequate hydration, being hesitant to take vaccinations, having poor health-seeking behaviors. You wait until you're extremely sick. That is when you go to the hospital. You can't just go to the hospital just to greet Daktari. Yeah? Daktari, I'm okay. I just wanted to greet you and just have a look. Am I okay? Yeah? Poor hygiene practices. H. pylori is a fecal-oral infection. Isolation and loneliness weakens our immune system. Having poor stress management techniques, inadequate sleep, lack of exercise. So you see, lack of exercise, unhealthy weight, unhealthy diet, smoking and alcohol, they keep on repeating and repeating and repeating. And those are things we can do something about. So as I come to the end, we have something in Japan that they call anemuri, which is the Japanese art of not sleeping. So in Japan, it is very okay for you to sleep in public. When you're at work, if your boss comes and finds you sleeping on the desk, it is very okay. They call it anemuri. It has been found to boost immune system, reduce stress, enhance mood, regulate emotion, has a good effect on cardiovascular health, lowering the blood pressure, reducing the risk for heart disease, relaxing the blood vessels and reducing stress on the heart, and improves memory consolidation. So in whatever laws Japan has, during the day it is allowed to take a nap of around 20 minutes, and it has been shown to improve even the work output, and for the children in school to improve their retention, their memory retention. So as I finish, remember that 30 to 40% of all cancer deaths are related to smoking, 35% are related to unhealthy diet, 20 to 35% are related to infections, and the cancer miracle isn't a cure. It is prevention. The only solution to battling cancer is a full-scale defense. So that's what I had for you today, and thank you for listening.